Good evening. It is February 12th. We're here for our regular scheduled county commissioner meeting. We have a night meeting tonight at 7. At this time, I'll call the meeting to order and ask everybody to please rise and join in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is the adoption of the current agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I would move for approval of the agenda with two adjustments. I'd like to see items number 2 and items number 4 of the regular business moved to items 7 and 8 of the consent agenda.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to move regular business items 2 and 4 to the consent agenda, making the consent agenda a total of 8. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Takes us down to our next approval of minutes. Is there any additions, corrections, revisions?
Corrections.
I read through them. Everything's good. Got the consensus on the minutes. Approval of warrants and payroll rosters.
So we have two fund expenditures today. Move for approval of fund expenditures in a total amount of $252,654.73 as presented, and note that it has been reviewed and signed by two representatives of the Auditor's Office and the County Administrator, and this is for an insurance claims fund.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Move for approval of fund expenditures in the total amount of $206,794.66 as presented, and note that it has been reviewed and signed by two representatives of the Auditor's Office and the County Administrator.
Commissioner Mullen, you repeated 206 and then 790,000.
Thank you.
If you
No,
go through that number again, please.
no, I said it correctly.
Nope.
$206,794.66.
Yes.
Second.
Second.
Did I say the other one twice?
You said thousands twice.
Thousands twice. All right. Thank you.
All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Mr. Mullen.
Thank you. Thanks for catching that.
All right, next we'll move down to public comment. Anybody for public comment? Nobody on the phones? I don't see anybody come to the mic. We'll move down to the approval of the consent agenda items 1 through 8.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of consent agenda items 1 through 8 as presented.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for the approval of the consent agenda items 1 through 8. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Takes us to regular business. First item, HAPO Center Annual Report presented by Mr. McCall, HAPO Manager. Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Good to
Yeah.
see you. Looking great out there.
Well,
Doing a
thank you.
fantastic job.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to introduce you to Joanna Ruiz, and she's our new Director of Sales. She's been with us about, I guess it's your 3rd month, and she's just doing a tremendous job, as you'll evidence by a couple things you'll see here shortly tonight. I also wanted to, say thank you, because some of the things we're going to present and just share with you tonight wouldn't be happening if it weren't a real team effort with, you commissioners, with the support of Eric Johnson, with IT and accounting and the treasurer's office. So there's a lot of people involved that make things happen. It isn't any one person or small group. And so just want to thank you all for that and continue to move. But I did also want to address, I know we're looked at tonight as it's an annual report. Well, this is an annual report as a business would look at it, of 60 pages of numbers. This is an annual report of how things are going at the HAPO Center. So I wanted to make sure that we set the stage for some expectations. So we have some things to share with you. There's a lot of positive things going on at the HAPO Center, both physically at the center itself, culturally, just in the vibe that's going on, what our customers and our clients are saying the feedback that we're getting. And so we're going to share a little bit with you tonight about that. And so if I can, I think we'll just start right off if we can.
Yes.
First of all, I wanted to share with you some of the events that we held in the last quarter of '24, and then some of the events that we're having here in the first quarter of '25. So as you can tell right off the bat, this is a Bechtel corporate Christmas party for 1,350 people, and that's a large amount of people. And it's a sit-down dinner, and it was done very, very well. The client was extremely happy. They've already re-upped for next year, and they also have told us that they'd like to come back and use the whole facility indoors, the entire facility, to do a company picnic in the early fall. And so that'll be a new event, and so we're thrilled about that. And that was, it was all hands on deck that night because they came to us from another venue in the marketplace and just had some struggles there. And so I'll be darned if we weren't going to make sure that we didn't take care of all their needs, and I think we delivered on that. And so we're proud about what happened that night, but we're excited about what 2025 brings for this particular client. Wanted to show you some variety. So last month, actually I guess almost 2 months now, we had the local kickboxing event with a local promoter. And as you can see, it really set up well. They did a nice job setting up. There was almost 20 bouts from some of the youngsters in the community to some other people in the Tri-Cities, and then some professionals that are being paid. And so it was a long evening. I think the fans really enjoyed themselves. It was just a very good event. I think we can improve on it. I think we can get even more attendance next year. So we've already got them renewed for this 2025 as well.
So on that, if
Yes.
I could ask a question, I looked like there's tables around the rink, and this is in the old arena side. Was there also people in the stands?
There were, and thank you for bringing that up. So the promoter sold tables to VIP, and corporate tables that on 3 sides of the rink and the ring, and then also sold individual tickets up in the stands. And I think the only thing we may do next year is suggest to them to move that a little closer to the stands and build the tables on the other 3 sides, and then you really bring all the fans closer into the event. So that's one of the things we'll be pushing for next year. I think it'll create a better environment. It was an awful good the way it was, but I think we can improve it a little bit. Yes.
I had the opportunity to attend that event, and it was really impressive. So several things that I noticed I already shared with you, but it was very well organized. It was attended, and thank you to the staff. The staff were very attentive to a number of times. The promoter asked for some additional chairs and so forth, and it was just really it was refreshing to see the promptness and the professionalism of your staff. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Next up, we had a Holiday Expo in 2024, which has been an annual event, but it just went very well. It was well received. Our client was happy. The customers that came to the event seemed to really enjoy it, and it was a very well done event and another good one for the Happel Center. And then we had another annual event, the Prosser Memorial Hospital Christmas Party and Casino Night, and they had a blast. They had a lot of fun. Again, they were very happy and looking forward to doing more business with us in the future. And by the way, I didn't mention, but the drapes that you're seeing in these pictures are new, and it's something that we just brought in about 3 months ago. And we thought we were going to have to take it down for certain events, but so far, even the ones that originally said they didn't want it, they've all wanted it. So we'll probably get another set, another color sometime in this next year. To give us some variety if we want to mix it up, but it's really given given a little better look and a little better vibe for everybody that attends. So that's been a positive. And then we had the Family Expo in January, and that was really geared towards families and kids, and just a lot of fun. And it was enjoyable to see the kids and families all enjoying themselves, and so another very, very positive event. Also in January, we held the Bridal Expo here, and don't know what else to say, keep saying, but it went very, very well, and I think that they're going to expand upon that event in terms of vendors for next year, but it was impressive with what they did, and we certainly had a lot of, as a matter of fact, too, we set up, Joanna set up a booth for us in the entrance in the lobby area, and put one of the new widescreens that we recently gotten that's portable behind it, and then set up a drawing. And we actually got 40 leads for potential future events from people for that event. And that's a lot. I mean, that's quite a bit. And obviously there'll be some that won't be as worthwhile, but you're going to get some very good leads out of that. So it taught us that even though we're the landlord here with some of these different trade shows, that we'll have the opportunity to market ourselves for all of them and try to continue to get future business. So I did want to bring up, which we've talked a little bit about, but thank you, commissioners, for providing us the opportunity to add some new, we needed some repair and replacements on some things, and it'll be an ongoing thing throughout 2025. But we did get new paint in the atrium, so we essentially had 10 days between January 2nd and January 11th that we had the opportunity, the window, to get all the paint and all the carpet done. So it was incredible. It was done in advance. We had everything done. Both the vendors did a great job. The suppliers did a great job and stayed on track. So we were able to execute and get all the paint done, all the carpet done during that 10-day period, and be on time to still start our event, our load-in on January 11th. We've also got new tables right now, needing more chairs. That's got to happen at some time soon. I think our chairs are 20 years old or something, so it's probably time. I don't know how many more times you can clean them before they, so we need to get some new chairs. But then in addition to that, we brought in a couple of flat screen TVs. We did actually 7 75-inch TVs in the atrium. There was 55-inch before, and they were getting older. So we've got brand new 75-inch TVs in there, and they look fantastic. And we also brought in an 86 and a 98-inch LED TV. So for client meetings and events, we can use this, whether it's, in a meeting where we don't want to use a projection unit like this, we can bring these up, and they look super effect. I think last advisory board, we used the 98-inch. And it'll also be good for us when we market ourselves in there and have a booth. And then lastly, sometimes these large-scale corporate events, you're always finding people that are sneaking out, wanting to know about what's the score of a ball game, an NFL game or a Super Bowl or whatever it is. So to be able to put that in the atrium somewhere where people do have an outlet or want to see something particular, it'll be a nice touch for them to be able to have that. Because oftentimes they don't want anything on in their main room, but they don't mind if people walk out and want to look at that. So this gives us the ability to do that. So we have some flexibility now. And then also, obviously, in our meeting rooms, we'll be renting these. Every time people want to that rent those rooms, they'll be renting these TVs. So there'll be some revenue that come in from those. And then lastly, we had a complete overhaul. Thank you to Commissioner Bauman, all the volunteers from the city of Pasco and the county and families in the area that came in and did this, and we'll show you a couple pictures of those. But guys, when I first came here about 6 months ago, the stalls were still there. The horse stalls were in the back on the east side, and they were auctioned off there shortly after, sometime over the summer. But that's also left a real kind of a mess out there. I mean, it hadn't been tended to in quite a while. And then the north side of the building up along Burden, that had become almost a dumping ground over the years. And so what Commissioner Headed and what this group did, honestly, at no cost, he was able to get volunteers to bring the gravel in and a company to haul it, and all these people that volunteered and bring the heavy equipment in. So that it just turned out so good. Like the home show this weekend, when they started bringing their trucks in yesterday and started loading, they could not believe their eyes of what they saw. So they were thrilled because they were able to use 2 sides to get things in much quicker and park their trucks out there. And so to give you an idea of what some of this looks like, the photo on the left is actually one of our 98-inch TV with our booth set up at that bridal show. But you can get a little idea of the carpet in the room and then the white paint that was done all throughout. And we trimmed everything in black. So it's a much more modern look in there than had been. And frankly, we relied on experts as far as the color scheme, and I wasn't sure, which is why you don't ask me for any design work. And that they hit it right on the nail, so the place really looks good. And then you can see there's a TV there in the upper left, but there's 5 of those in the atrium area. And then on the right, that's our concession stand, which looks quite a bit different than you probably saw 6 months or a year ago, and did painting in there and put up TV so that we can have menus put up digitally, and also have a ball game or 2 on if we need to for fans standing in line at certain events. And here's a couple more photos. So on the left, that gives you a better idea of what the carpet looks like and the paint and we hung some different lighting along those wires. The room really looks fantastic right now. And you know, it's interesting. Visit Tri-Cities, that red pole and the brochures next to it, we had them in a different location and they just weren't being used or seen. And now, because of the location, right when you walk in, we're having to refill those racks every single event. And it's good because that brochure that Visit Tri-Cities puts out, which, you know, also features us, is one of the best brochures I've ever seen done like that. So we're getting those out in a much higher quantity than we ever had before. And then the picture on the right just shows you the entrance into the expo hall and shows one of the 75-inch TVs right above it. So we're able to, you know, put up the events or welcome different people here from time to time. So that's really been an asset. And then here's the north side of the arena off Burden. And I wish I had a before picture, but I don't know that it would have done any justice because there was mounds of dirt and weeds and tires and refrigerators and everything else on their side. So, I mean, what was done out there is just so impressive. So that gravel, they actually took 5 inches of dirt out of there, took it to the east lot in the back, and put it in where all the undulation from all the horse stalls had created over the years. So now the back lot also is completely leveled out. So it was just tremendous. So we're completely flat and lined up, and there's so many potential uses for this property. You guys, the location right off Burden and the fact it can be accessed from the parking lot without having to go through the expo hall, the arena, is another one. So as we continue to strategically plan down the road, I think this is going to get create more and more opportunity for us to look at and put into the mix, because there's some things that could be indoor, outdoor. You know, there's a lot of things that could be created here. And that's just a picture. The one on the right is a picture of the east side of the arena where we usually load in. But now, as you can see on the picture on the left, they can load in from the garage doors on the left and the back, so for a quicker load in. So, but the fact that it's completely flat, you can drive on it, and it looks so much better. And if you notice those trees in the background on the photo on the right, those were overgrown, pushing that fence over, and Commissioner Bauman's group literally came in and cut trimmed and pruned those things, you know, and so it looks a lot better. And we got several years probably before we'll have to do anything there again. This is the east lot. So this is where the horse stalls were on the far left, and that's completely been laid out. You can see that those trees, there's a stack of trees that were cut up and cut down by the group that came out. And so we've got to remove that. But those were trees, the cottonwoods that were up, they were impeding the gates there. They were, you know, those cottonwood trees are kind of dirty. You know, they're always dropping stuff and creating. So we took those out. And as you can see, on the right, picture on the right, that's completely leveled out. And guys, there was at least a 4 or 5 inch undulation where all the horse stalls were. So by taking that dirt out and leveling it out, you can see what it's done for that. So, and again, as far as the future goes, we've got another great piece of property, probably not as valuable in some ways as the Burden property because of the access and the visibility from Burden, but a great piece of dirt that it could be accessible depending on what y'all decide to do. And then this was the father-daughter dance that was just held last weekend, right? And guys, I got to tell you, when I looked at it on our schedule the last few months, I just kind of pushed it off because I saw a father-daughter dance, which I've participated in my life, and I thought, okay. And then I asked, well, which day is it that weekend? They said all 3 days. I said, what do you mean? I said, no, the load-in's Friday and load out Sunday, and the dance on Saturday. No, they have one on Friday night, 2 on Saturday, and 1 on Sunday. I'm like, how many people is that? 1,600 on Friday night, 3,200 on Saturday from 2 dances, and 900 on Sunday. So an incredible job. It's Calvary Chapel that has been doing this for 28 years, from what I understand. And they were prepared and organized, and the kids and the daughters and the fathers, it was a wonderful event, and it was run really well. They had great staging, and it just created for a super event. And this is just another photo of that. The photo on the left is on the inside of the expo, and they also had 4 photography areas set up that made people not stand in line, like you might for something that size. And so we just had, it was a day that really kind of filled my heart. I can tell you that. And it was just so great to see that many fathers and daughters and at the Hapo Center here, enjoying that, because that's a lot of memories and a lot of great photographs, and we had nothing but great feedback from both the young kids and all the fathers we've talked to. Oh, I'm sorry, I want to back up. So they did have over 6,000 people in attendance for that weekend. So a very, very strong showing. And then the Sportsman Show was 2 weekends ago, and as usual, they did a great job. Most of these pictures are prior to the actual event, so they had a rock climbing piece there in the arena, as well as a kids, pond for fishing, which turned out to be a real big hit. The kids went there, and all that was filled up around that the entire time. So it was good to see, and they also had they had boats and trucks and mechanical bulls and by the way, when I see that, now that I think about it, there's a rumor going around that Commissioner Bauman may have gotten hurt trying to do 7 seconds on that bull. Is there any truth to that?
8 seconds.
8 seconds. I'm sorry. Maybe you got to 7. You didn't get that last one quite in. So again, over 6,600 people in attendance for the Sportsman Show for their 3 days. And you'll see in a letter they sent later, but they said their numbers were slightly higher this year from last year, and they said that the vendor numbers were significantly higher than pre-COVID. So that's a very good sign for the economy, for the Hapo Center, and for this particular event. Y'all able to read that. So these were our fourth quarter events that we held, and I just highlighted a few of them. We had the Walmart employee event, which was kind of nice that they used, chose our facility. I mean, everybody on here, it's nice that we had women helping women, and St. Pat's has their concert every year there, and that was a great thing to see. They do a great job. Custer's, of course, every year, the Arts and Crafts Show. Pasco High School, football team held their gala here, their banquet at the end of the season. Grappling, Bechtel with their large holiday party, and we even had the Washington State Criminal Justice Training and Commission here and graduation, which was kind of neat to see, and it was neat for us to be a part of holding that. So those were our 24 fourth quarter events, and now we slip into giving you a look at the first quarter of 2025, and we have 20 events on the books right now. We may have another couple that sneak in, but all these that you see, the ones that are highlighted in green are brand new events for the first time at the Hapo Center. So 8 out of the 20 events are brand new that Joanna went out and brought in for us, and we think that's going to continue, not just be the first quarter. We're just having a lot of success, and we're having more outreach, and we're also having more leads come into us. So, but those 7, that's 40% that we didn't have last year in the month of January. So, really good stuff from that perspective. And then I wanted to just give you an idea. We implemented a software program to track everybody that calls in. In fact, we have, if you notice the upper left, these are suspects in our column there. We consider a suspect anybody that walks and talks, and they'll go on our list. They'll be in there. We'll be able to download all kinds of corporate and community information there on our suspect list as we reach out to them in different ways, via phone, via email, via in person, as we find out what their needs and wants potentially can be. We move them into a prospect list, and they become a prospect. So they become somebody who could have some level of opportunity to be a part of the Hapo Center in this next year or two. And they go on there, and then we take it right into a meeting or tour scheduled of the facility, and then into a proposal, and then contract started. So we'll keep good records of this and have that information at hand at any one time, so that we can realize where this data helps us to understand where the better leads are coming from and where the better interest is, where we can spend our time marketing. And then the next one is, I'm going to ask Joanna just to talk about this, because it's something she initiated as soon as she got in here at the beginning of December.
Yes, so just to backtrack a little bit, that is our customer relationship management software, which allows us to see all of our customers in one glance, which is very helpful. to stay organized and know where the customer is in the sales process. And moving on to the marketing side, so when I first started, I wanted to do an audit on our online presence to see where we were, where we were not. And I did do a search for Event Center Richland, Event Center Kennewick, Event Center Pasco, and every time I searched, I kept seeing this website called Event Active pop up in the #1 spot or the #2 spot. So I said, hey, that's somewhere we need to be. So I dove into that website, and I saw it is an event management platform that you can be a part of, that people that are searching for event venues go to secure venues for weddings, birthday parties, and things like that. So I'm very glad we are now a part of Event Active, and as you can see, we have received quite a bit of direct referrals. So that's 20 direct referrals, 74 leads that we were able to bid on. We have 165 profile views, and they even go to our website, which is good. So yeah, as a marketing standpoint, it's very important to be on these different platforms to be relevant. And then also, during my audit, I noticed that we have a lot of online assets. We had our Facebook page, our website, our Instagram, but we needed to gain access. So I took it upon myself to regain access to our social media platforms, and I can say now that we are active, we are posting, we are engaging with the community, which is very important. And with that, you can see the results where we are now, 29% up from December 2024, and 29% up on views, 32% up on reach, 139% up on follows, and 83% up on interaction. So this is good. It's showing we're active. People want to see what we're posting and want to interact with us. So it's good stuff. Good stuff.
Thank you, Joanna. One of the last things I wanted to share with you before any of you have any questions is we did create a marketing brochure for the HAPO Center. So we have a hard copy that we use when we go out face-to-face for individual meetings. And there you go. There you go. Thank you. And obviously we created it from a digital standpoint. So I wanted to just share it with you briefly so you can get a feel. But this is the front cover. This is page 2 and 3 inside the brochure. So we felt like, we just wanted to just get, put a little bit in photos on our left of the facility on the interior. And we wanted to create some photos of the Tri-Cities so that when we're out regionally marketing the HAPO Center, they can see this is more than just a building that they can utilize, but some of the great parts of the Tri-Cities, and I think we captured that in those photos. And then you would turn to just some people that provided references for their experience at the HAPO Center, along with a pretty darn good setup of a wedding inside the exposition hall there. And again, there's another wedding. It wasn't a wedding. It was a
Bechtel.
Bechtel event. That was the Bechtel event on the picture on the left. And one of the things that I think that we have to offer right now, when we look at the convention center across the river, they do a very good job, and it's a very nice facility. But I'll be very frank, there's enough room in this market for two. There's no doubt. And so what we want to do is we want to have a point of differentiation. And that differentiation is going to be that we can customize for you, and we'll bend. And we can mold you like silly putty so that you come up and sculpt exactly what you want. And I think you find across the way, that's a company, it's a corporate company with many venues, and they've got to follow. It's not a what can we do for you? It's yes, we can do it, or no, we can't do it. And so I think that's our point of differentiation, is that we have the ability to mold an event and to move where we can, as long as we're still staying in the lines of doing what's right for the county as a steward, and trying to find a space between the county and our client and our operating needs to make sure that we get something done that's right. And I think we have the ability to do that. And so that's what if you can dream it, we can do it. And that's what we share with people. And the other two things that we always tell every customer right now, and we've got to live up to it, but our job is to make whoever it is that made the decision to do come bring the business here, we need to make them look good in their decision to do business. And secondly, we've got to take as much of the work out of that event as we possibly can for them. And if you do those two things, they'll continue to come back, and that's the bottom line. And then on the right, on the page on the right, we're talking about daring to dream. As we move into the future, I'm sorry, the opportunities are endless. And this is just a photo of a pickleball, which we still have the opportunity, and we're looking into for the arena as an opportunity. And that property on Burden outside, that has an opportunity to be an outdoor something. So we want to continue to bring some things to the table and help strategize and help the commissioners decide what's in the best interest of the county for our facility and for that property that's around that facility. And so we're working on that right now. And then we wanted to make sure people understood we do have the ice and the HAPO, the ice pavilion. And that's, obviously fully engaged right now, 6 or 7 days a week, that the Youth Hockey Association is using it 5 or 6 days a week, and they're hosting tournaments in there. And they have a state tournament coming up here that they're hosting with 19 teams coming in, which will make all the hotels happy. They should be full. And we wanted to give our stakeholders there and people, a little love by putting them in the brochure and letting people know that they can stay right on site, because that's a very big deal for people coming to soccer or baseball or the ice pavilion, or even coming in for our shows, our trade shows on the weekends, or even the corporate events. So we got as much out of that as we possibly could. And then lastly, I just wanted to share with you, we've actually gotten a couple of these letters this month, which was encouraging. We shared it with our staff, and I took the liberty of condensing this a little so you could all read it. But the bottom line is, to hear from a sportsman show who does this all over the region and for many, many years, and to have him unsolicited, the promoter of the Sportsman Show, send us something just talking about how successful it was. The numbers were up. Number of exhibitors were the best since pre-COVID. And, he just commented about how easy we were to work with, how clean the facility was, and that help was never far away when they needed something. When this is what we strive to do. And if we can continue to do this and get these letters, that HAPO Center is going to start gaining more momentum than it has in several years. And we're thankful to be a part of it, and just appreciate the time tonight to come and share with you. It was probably a little overdue, but we're glad we're here, and thank you for not making me get up so early on a regular. So are there any questions about anything we talked about tonight, or any comments?
So you said you had over 1,300 for the Bechtel. How many people can you accommodate?
Commissioner, not many more than that. I mean, if they said if someone came to us with a 1,500, we'd probably find a way. But it was stretched. It was stretched. But remember, they put a dance floor right out in the middle of this too. So that might be a little bit flexible as to how much we can do. So I would think somewhere between 1,350 and 1,500 is probably our limit. And it's going to be about having enough tables and chairs to accommodate that.
I see.
So.
No, I had the opportunity to go out there. It looks very nice. So I do appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you. And I did want to comment too that, we've been talking about an open house for a while, and something we want to do. So we are looking at late April, because we want time to do it right. We're going to set up an open house that we literally, I don't know if you've ever been to IKEA, but you go through, the merchandise you go through, and they have rooms already set up. And so we want to take that same merchandising idea and set up a portion of the expo hall, for a big corporate event, how it would look, so people can see and touch how it would be. We want to do something in the arena that could be interactive, but shows what we do and what we use in there. And we want to have the meeting rooms set up for corporate type events, and then have the atrium turned into a place for refreshments and maybe sharing things on the TV. So we want to do a full-blown open house, and we'll plan for that in late April. In order for us to do that, it's going to take getting several different hands involved to make that happen. But I think it'll be a tremendous showpiece for the HAPO Center and the community, and we'll invite, literally, it's going to be an open house. We'll invite everybody that we can in the Tri-Cities that needs to see it or wants to see it.
Welcome, Joanna.
Thank you.
I've got to know you just a little bit, because you guys know I come often, and it's always nice to walk into Joanna's smiling face. We got a smile, and she's always working hard to promote the HAPO Center, and I've got to see that on a first-person basis quite a few times. So thank you for what you're doing in the promotion of the Hapo Center. And Mike, thank you. I know I've said it before, and I mean every bit of it is thank you for working hard to bring that gym back. I watched this facility be built back in the early 90s, and I've watched it deteriorate to some level over time in different parts. And you've heard me say it before, and I'll say it again. I want it to be back, and I want it to be a centerpiece in our community, and I want to help do that. And so however I can help you guys and do that, I want to do that. And the people that helped on the old-fashioned barnyard cleanup day, that was amazing. It was fun to be a part of. Just so thankful for the city council that, you know, participated and was helpful, and the community that came out. And we're planning to do it again, a little bit different style, but Mike and I are working on putting together a day, also working with Pasco City Council member Leo Perales, and we're going to put together a day to build a few simple locker rooms in the ice pavilion, so that the visiting teams that come can have a locker room where they can have a place to hang up their gear and change out their clothes and so forth. So we're working diligently on that. And I think it's the weekend of the 10th of March is whenever we kind of need to have that done. So looking forward to getting that finalized when we're going to do it and putting that together. But thank you so much for what you're doing. It
You're
really,
welcome.
it
Thank
really
you for
looks
everything.
different.
Well, and I wanted to comment on that, the locker room. So we're not going out and spending a lot of money on this at all. This is going to be donated in, you know, time and labor. But what it does allow us to do is when we have these 16, 19, 24 team tournaments, you have some efficiency to you know, get people dressed and on the ice as soon as the other game ends. When you only have the 4 locker rooms we have, that team's got to go in and get changed, and the other team's got to go into that locker room. And I mean, literally, it's probably 25% more time, more ice time that we create, and it makes it much more efficient for the kids and the parents, makes it a more enjoyable place to come to and host tournaments. So it's very much needed. These will be very bland, but they'll have hooks and seats, and they'll be easily accessible, and they'll be on the opposite side where the locker rooms are now, over on the side where the Zamboni is housed. So looking forward to that.
So I'll probably have to more supervise than help on that particular day because I'm still kind of limping around. But I'm really excited and looking forward to being a part of that. And thank you for what you're doing. It's really impressive to see the ice hockey families come together, all that they have done and continue to do. Some of the upgrades that they've continued to be a part of is just really inspiring. So thank you, and I'm excited that the community is. You can feel the difference when you're out there. From the staff to the community when they're out there. And Mr. Schuler, I had an opportunity to talk to him a number of times during the Sportsman Show, and he commented on that, how that there's a different feel in the air. And so thank you very much.
You know, this is a little bit like an old car, an old house, an old boat that hasn't been taken care of as much as you like, but you know anything like that can be fixed up with a commitment and look at better than ever. And that's what we're hoping to help be a part of. And guys, this is really a very strong asset, and there's a need for it in this marketplace. And I hope that you'll continue to do what you've been doing, because I think there's a turnaround going on here, and I think that you couldn't replace this building. You could never, you know, afford to replace that building. It's a tremendous asset, and there's only two like this in the entire Tri-Cities, and there's not going to be 3. So the supply and demand, as we continue to grow here, this event center is going to do nothing but become more valuable to you all. So thank you again for everything.
And in ending,
Yes.
I'd just like to say, as a commissioner for 6 years, this has been a struggle. But since HWL showed up, it has turned into a pleasure. And I thank you for your leadership and for your expertise in turning this situation around. It is,
appreciate that.
you have done an incredible job.
It isn't me. It's a staff and an ownership group, but it's about a commitment.
And it's about being humble, and you're very good at it.
Thank you.
And you shed and deflect all the credit.
Well,
And
but you know.
that's what it takes.
You played enough sports to know.
That's right.
It isn't any one person.
That's right.
You know. Thank you.
Thank you.
All good tonight? You can all go home and get to bed early.
We got more business to do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Great presentation. Takes us down to the second regular business item, approval of starting salary for case manager, grade 15, step 5, presented by Trinity Orozco.
Well, this isn't as exciting. We recently lost an employee who resigned her position for personal reasons. And prior to putting out the information, we had someone reach out to us who is highly qualified, probably higher qualified than we deserve at this point. She has a number of years' experience working for Lourdes, the mental health portion, I believe 8 years there, and then has experience in the courts. She's looking to grow her current position, isn't excited about the opportunity. However, in order to get her, we need to meet her current salary. Prior to, or I guess right after the resignation, my intent was to come before the board and ask to move up a grade anyway, because after looking at what we had in the community, what's expected of us, and we kind of tried to glean everything from around the state, we discovered that we're actually providing more services than a number of other therapeutic courts around the state, which is causing a higher level of need as far as what we can provide. There's also just, if you take apart the fact that there's a need for education, there's also the need to have somebody who's able to emotionally take what they're working with on a regular basis. It's like any other mental health provider, there's a lot of people that they're working with that you become mentally exhausted. And so with this individual, they have all the experience, they know what they're coming into, they have the ability to monitor a caseload. They've worked with over 800 cases on a caseload previously, currently working with about 800. Thankfully, the maximum they're going to receive here is 35, but it's going to cause or require them to provide a lot more assistance to individuals, and they're excited about that position. This is fully grant funded. It doesn't impact the county, and I will say that recently, and I'm sure you probably all heard, we're looking at losing money through grants if we don't start using them, and it's kind of a use it or lose it. I received an email, I think probably a day or two after we received resignation, that said, you haven't used all your money, what's going on? We need to make sure that we're using this, or we're gonna take some back. Fortunately, we hadn't yet put into the OPD fund to fund portion of this position for the public defender, so we still need to receive that and to supply that, those monies. We also have pro tem fees and interpreter fees, so we will meet it if we can fund this position appropriately.
Questions?
Kind of have a question, but it's probably not as much for you as it is for Margot. Wondering about, I know just enough to kind of ask a question, but not fully developed question maybe. You're asking for this position, would you say which grade and step?
Right now, we're at we're requesting a 15.5, and I had actually intended to come in and request a 16. This is like a probation officer position. I think our probation officers might be at a 17. So we were kind of trying to figure out what the appropriate grade and step is. But we have somebody at a 15 who's willing to take it at a 15.5, although I think more in the realm of 16 or 17 would probably be more appropriate. But it sounds like the prior experience they have would put it at the 15.5 would be good at this point.
So I guess I'm not quite sure how to ask this question, but wouldn't it be more appropriate to have somebody start at like a 16, 1 or 2 at the same salary so that they have the opportunity for growth over time as they are here? I'm not sure how to ask the question that I'm trying to figure out, because the steps are a longevity thing, right?
Right.
And so the grade is a scale, and then the steps give them opportunity for growth. So do you understand what I'm trying to ask?
Well, I think so. So if you come in at a 5, because it is a non-bargaining position, it would take 2 years and they'd step out. A 16, 1 or 2, they would have those additional 5, 6 years if that's what you're
Yeah.
getting at. Of that increase in their salary each year.
Could you talk, though, about the process of like, what the judge was speaking about of moving at a grade is a process, though, that would require really what analysis. Is it properly placed right now? I think right now, you could still do that at a later time. Is it properly placed?
And the reason why we went this route was because our current court coordinator is drowning, and this was the easiest way to get it through. And then if we come back later and make that request, I think it would be supported by the information we have. But right now, it's about how can we get somebody into the position now so that she doesn't leave us.
So you probably know this by heart, I don't. So a grade 15 step 5 would be equivalent to a grade 16 step what?
4.
4, okay. And so it would be a 17.3, an 18.2, a 19.1.
There's going to be a slight increase over the bottom one, but yes, you go up and back one.
So we've done this a number of times, a similar scenario in the sheriff's office where that we have somebody, our most recent one was where that there was somebody that started, but they already had training. And so it was the justification for why to start them above a step 1.
Yeah, that for the sheriff's office, it's a lateral position. They've already been doing it, so they're just going from one agency to the other.
Yeah, and I think
Yes.
that's what you're describing to me, Judge, is describing to us is this person already has multiple
Well-
years in similar type.
Ish, yes, but ish, because what we did, this is a new position, so what we did is we looked through the state and we tried to find out the case manager positions and what they did, and then we tried to look at all of the different salaries and benefits and how it was working for each different jurisdiction, and then put that together to make it fair and to make it kind of within the realm of possibility. But then discovering now that what we actually do is more than most courts do.
That's what I'm trying
So it's not so
to-
much the experience that this person has specifically, but it's that the position is going to require more than other positions require.
Yeah, I guess so. That's a piece of what I'm asking. But the other component is this person is not starting. They have already been working in the same type of world, not this position, but they have experience.
Correct.
In corrections, in other mental health and other positions. So we're not starting with a step 1.
Correct.
And so I guess that would be my comment to this is I think it would be more appropriate to start at a higher grade at a lower step to give them opportunity instead of stepping out in 2 years. So that would be my comment.
Well, and I 100% agree. I just didn't want to cause any additional problems and make it about regrading getting into the argument, right? Because there's a lot of those arguments going on right now. And in
So-
order to avoid making everybody angry about trying to reclassify a position or to regrade the position, we're just like, can we do this based on their experience, and then we'll attack it all at once.
So this position is 100% grant funded. Is that accurate?
It is.
And it's believed that it will continue to be that way.
Correct. It's my
We have
understanding
to apply
this.
for it year after year,
We apply, yes.
but we believe that it's a perpetual grant.
Right, we were told that we will continue to receive the funds based on our spending, and so each year we justify it with the current spending that we've provided. So now we're just trying to make sure that we stay within the grant, but also that we attract the right quality of people. We were close to, we were probably underspent a little bit because the position was open for a while, and we're looking at, well, did we do this appropriate? So they may take some back, but the goal is no, and we have a number of projects that others, contractors, interpreters, and so forth, can complete for us that are going to get us there. And they've encouraged us to complete those projects. It's just a matter of getting them contracted out.
And so looking into next year, this isn't going to put us into a deficit for next year because we were open for a period this year. It won't do
Correct,
that.
correct.
Okay.
Because next year, we won't have to have the handbook interpreted, the SOC's forms interpreted, which is all going to cost a lot of money.
Commissioner Mullen, any questions?
I don't have any questions at this point, no.
I have a couple. The person that left, what's grade and step were they serving at?
15-3.
15.3. And if we don't get that grant funding, or do you have sufficient funds in your budget to pay this?
Well, then I'm gonna come ask for the mental health sales tax, which is appropriate for this funding. This is exactly the purpose of it.
As for sales tax?
The mental health sales tax, correct?
Oh, mental health sales tax, okay. Not an increase in sales tax. Yeah, because, you know, our state's in financial disarray.
And I understand that, and this is gonna be a position, but my thought was, and this is my thinking still, is that there's this grant pot that they're pulling from, and they're divvying it out to the different jurisdictions that
Right.
make that request. That pot isn't going to to deplete because, or to reduce, because we didn't use our funding, they're just gonna reallocate. So what's gonna happen is Franklin County doesn't get their share, but maybe Chelan County gets our share now. So it's not that we're increasing taxes, it's, these are already increased, here's the pot, we would like to get the amount that is going to assist us in our programs.
I think what Commissioner Didier is referring to is the unknown of the 25-27 biennium for the state at this point.
Right, well, and I did.
Which is an unknown for a lot of
Yes.
Well, when I
potential
met
state-funded
with
programs.
Senator Binky, he did state, what we had right now was what we're having. If it hasn't been used, if there's things out there that we're saying we're using, but we haven't really shown any results, then probably not going to be funded again. But we have results, we've submitted our reports, we submit them quarterly. They're aware of what we're doing.
And starting at the 15.5 is not limiting them from getting into a grade 16. It just starting at a 15.5, which is, I'm in favor of
Right.
leaving it right where it's at.
Okay.
Explain the difference to me between what Mr. Baumann suggested and what you're asking for.
I would love to come in and ask for the grade 16, but I know that I have to redo the job description. We have to support that, get it to HR, all of the red tape. And right now, because we have one person trying to manage our entire program, as well as of all of our participants, I'm genuinely afraid that she may leave. And we can't, if she leaves, our program is gone. So my easiest step was to say, let's just present this at the salary that we know that she needs to make, that she's accepted, and then we'll come back and reevaluate it later.
For the additional grade.
Right, to increase the
16,
grade.
right.
Yes.
So we would love to do that, but this is quicker, faster. We can ensure it happens.
And Commissioner Mullen, not to interrupt you, but you get an incubation period of seeing what she can do.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, you've never worked with her, you've heard, you've seen, but this will give you a chance to evaluate.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of Resolution 2025-069 as presented.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for Resolution 2025-069, approval of starting salary for Case Manager 15, Step 5. Is there any further discussion?
How long is it? I guess I'm still trying to decipher the difference between a grade 15, step 5, and a grade 16, step 1.
I think it would be a 16, what, 4 you said?
16.4, yeah, so you move, if you move up, you move one grade back to kind of have the equivalent. So 16.1 would be equivalent to basically a 15.7 basic, kind of, so.
Salary-wise.
This would be
15.2.
Yeah, yeah, so a 16.1 would be less than a 15.5.
Yes, you'd go to a 16.4. So what, maybe I can help explain this a little bit. What Commissioner Baumann is suggesting and what Judge Trinity Orozco has mentioned is more of a reclassification of the position. Taking a look of the actual job duties, and are you meeting the market for what those duties are and compensating that person appropriately? When you created the position, I would say yes, but now in looking into it, she's saying, no, we're actually doing more than what we looked into originally. So she wants to do that, but that takes a little bit more time versus she has a vacancy, she has a very drastic need, and to get the person into the position as it's classified right now, which is a grade 15, though asking for 2 steps higher than what the current person was at, is to get a body into there to help the workload. So the rest of it can come later. It's not as timely as her need right now. Does that help explain anything?
My thought process on asking that question is if we do the heavier lifting now, the more work now, it gives us more time in that position. It gives the person the ability to go through the process as we have laid out of increasing in steps as they have tenure versus starting at 15 and in 2 years we got to redo it. But either way, the cost is the same.
Yeah, I think you're 16, you'd have to go to 16.4 to really get the same salary
Yes.
as the 15.5. So you would be starting there. I mean, it's possible you could do that, you know, and I mean, but you're kind of putting the cart before the horse.
And I can appreciate it after
Yeah.
you explained further.
Yeah.
And
If I could interject something, excuse me, sorry. I think what Judge Orozco is talking about in terms of the red tape is, this position, is it tied to the salary matrix in some way right now?
Oh, I'm sure we've have it on there, yeah.
So we'd want to alter that, which would probably mean that we'd have to amend the salary matrix with a subsequent resolution. If it's tied to that, I know most positions are defined and then they're, set at a specific grade on the matrix. So we'd want to make sure that we're amending that, if that's the case. So that might be part of it, in conjunction with amending the job description.
It could be, that would also get a new resolution at the end of the year, which would update that. So I'm not so worried about updating the matrix in that aspect. But when the position was created and approved by resolution, it was created and approved at a grade 15. So it's more modifying that versus just the matrix. But yes, that would be the red tape. Just making sure all of our processes are checked and we're doing the right thing. But her immediate need right now is she has an opening, she has a severe caseload. So instead of extending that opening, she has a viable candidate who could step in. The 15.5 meets that salary request of that employee or that candidate. And so the request now for the 15.5.
If I could just add there, so in order to change that resolution, we would need another resolution, which we don't have right now.
Yeah.
So I think the easier fix is what Judge Orozco is proposing, just to bring her in at a 15.5 and then come back later to change the grade.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Takes us down
Thank
to Commissioner Administrator updates. Mr. Administrator, Mr.
Thank you.
Johnson.
Thank you. So I have a number of items for you. We've started the interview process for the Office of Public Defense Manager. So we've started those interviews. 3, what I would say, qualified candidates, and so we've started that process. Your action tonight, we will be bringing on Wes McCart to be your planning director. He will start actually next Tuesday. So he will take on the responsibility over there, so we'll start orientation with him. The county administrator position announcement is out. You can go online, just to remind folks, but there's materials you can download. You can forward that link on if you've got someone that you think would be a viable candidate. First reviews will be sometime in early March. Will be the first time reviews will start by the consultant to look at that. So that is underway. I have started to work on and have had a couple of meetings with Commissioner Didier. I've talked briefly with Commissioner Bauman, Commissioner Mullen. I'd like to wrap around to you, which is really to talk about what will be the kind of an interim plan. As you, 3 of you all know, I will be departing my position on February 27th, and so there'll be about at least a 2-month gap And so really, what is the kind of the interim activities, who will be managing, who will be supervising, a variety of those types of things. So looking at doing some splitting of some of those responsibilities and identifying who will be doing some of that work. So I've been working through that, and we'll have something more in writing for you after some of the discussions I've had to date so far. The ongoing activities, HAPO, they must have left, or they do want to thank them, but there is a number of activities and items that we continue to work on there. I meet with Mike every Tuesday afternoon at 4. So we are constantly looking at HAPO management, the HAPO agreement. We had a meeting with kind of our auditor, our treasurer, HWL team. So we had a variety of folks looking at the accounting and finance principles that are in the agreement. We've got a contract management process now in place. It was wonderful to see some of the metrics that you saw tonight that can be included in kind of that monitoring for marketing and contacts. So some metrics associated with that. So a lot happening with that. We're also looking at the HVAC system. And the potential for how are we going to secure that new HVAC. We're looking at the Commerce grant to secure the $3 million, looking at parking and the overlay for that, or oil and gravel for the parking lot. So a lot of things happening in that world that we'll have to be continually to look at and monitor as well. I do have a letter for you to sign. It's in your packet that will be circulated on that you've requested to respond to the previous vendor management, SVM. So that's in your packet as you requested for a letter to respond to them. So that's in your packet as well. I want to remind you of the HAPO Master Plan that you all have a copy of. If you do have any feedback to provide to HWL, who could pass that on to the Johnson firm, please make sure that you do that. We'd like to proceed kind of with the next steps for finalizing that master plan. So let me know if you do have any items associated with that. I want to remind you also, and Teresa gently reminded you, she's very polite, but Title 17 was some light reading for you to do, so we can have in the planning document. And so I know Jeff has some additional potential comments to it. If you have any additional comments to make to our planning consultant on Title 17, so we can get that back to them for bringing that back to you for additional consideration. So please take a look at that. Teresa did a very gentle and very polite reminder by sending you the materials again. So you might have made it through that, and we just need your comments. If you have any, you might be content with what is currently being provided. That obviously had been through the Planning Commission. There's significant changes. We'll have to figure out whether we have to send that back to the Planning Commission, whether SEPA triggers back in. So just want to remind you to make sure you take a look at that. We will be doing, I can't remember if it's next Wednesday or the following Wednesday, we'll be doing a workshop on our property management ordinance. And we continue to kind of tweak that, update it. I think there may be other items to it, but we want to get your feedback started and going on that so that we can have that come back before you, ranging with both surplus property, how we could potentially dispose of both personal property and real property. And Jeff's has that in ordinance form now for you to take a look at. I am continuing to prepare a kind of a report to you on the jail medical contract. I'm still waiting for some information from the Sheriff's Department to help me finalize that report. Absent that, I'll have a report to you before I leave, and it will be whatever the status of information I have at that time. Let's see, I think that is the highlight. February 25th at 3 p.m. is a bi-county meeting that Commissioner Didier had asked for. I think you've probably communicated that to the board members, or we're trying to get that to them. Okay, yep. Yeah, and so we do anticipate it being focused on behavioral health, veteran service officers, the Columbia Basin Behavioral Recovery Center for Recovery. An update on that, but also thinking about the operations agreement. So we understand we've already made the investment into the capital facility, now getting information, and they don't have the final agreement yet, but having discussions about the operating agreement and things like that. So those are the general components. We probably only have about an hour and a half, so there's probably not too many things we can load onto the agenda, but and we will be there. We're kind of squeezing into a meeting. We were due to host, but because of their schedule, it's just going to fit into a block of time that they have between meetings. So I think that is going to be the end of my report. Available to answer any questions that you have.
No questions, but thank you. Commissioner Bauman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With your permission, I'd like to share why I was not here last week.
Absolutely.
So, as parents, those of us that are parents, we do the best we can. We don't get an opportunity to practice being a parent. You are now a parent whenever your child is born, and so as you go through raising them, you try to do the best that you can do. And last week, I was blessed with reward for a lot of hard work, and it was amazing. So my wife and I's 18-year-old son graduated from basic training. He graduated with 965 other graduates, and of the 965, there was 10 graduates that received commendation for things that they had done through that training. He had been promoted to platoon guide. And basically what that means is he was in charge of his platoon, which was 50 soldiers, and it was special. We got to see him leading them and addressing them. But I noticed Family Day was Wednesday, so when I talked to you last Wednesday at the commissioners' meeting, I was sitting in a parking lot, having just pulled off of the field where that he had been presented to us, and it was at the PX on the base there was where I was talking to you from. But he graduated with 965 and was the soldier that received 2 awards. And so he was, his company, which is 200 soldiers, he was awarded the Soldier Leader of the Cycle for the Bravo Company of 200 soldiers. And then out of 965, he was awarded a medal as the Iron Soldier. And that was pretty amazing. So there was a special program where that the 5 in command above him presented him to his family, and it was a pretty amazing experience. So I'm really thankful that I got to do that, and I'm a pretty proud pop for it, and would be excited to show anybody pictures that would like to see. It was a pretty special day, and just the way that they were presented. And the amount of maturity that I seen was really special. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for letting me share that. Had a meeting about the CPACE program earlier this week, and have asked that we bring that before this board for potential action. I think it's something that could be very, very helpful. I can't find anything that is negative towards the county. It can do nothing but help as far as I can tell, and look forward to seeing that come and questions that would potentially arise out of that. Had a meeting earlier this week about mental health and some of the impacts, and just really I'm trying to learn and understand better. Yesterday we had a Franklin County Emergency Management Columbia Generation Station exercise, just what happens if there's an issue. So I've had an opportunity to participate in that a number of times, and I just appreciate the professionalism and experience of everybody there. I feel like a real rookie just watching experts work, and so I just really appreciate everybody and learning there. Met with a citizens group concerned about the shoreline reconveyance. And so I met with them for a couple of hours and listened to their concerns about what that may mean in our community. And so I really appreciated their input. Earlier today, we had the elected and department head meeting, and trying to potentially with you commissioners, with your permission, maybe adjust the format of that meeting just a little bit. And so I ask our clerk to be there to take notes and kind of to help with that. So we met earlier in the week and kind of put together an agenda of what that might be. And so we met earlier today with electeds and department heads, and I felt like it went really well. We had two main topics, actually three main topics. One of them was our office created the position of a public records officer. And so my question for the electeds and department heads is, has that been helpful? Are we doing it right? Is it making more efficiency? And the answer was yes. It's getting better. It's our response times are shorter, and it's the coordination has been helpful. So another thing we talked about is just the HAPO Center and the momentum that we're seeing there. And then our administrator talked about some of the bills that are being introduced into Olympia, and so there was some discussion around that. And so what I ask the group is that if there's a topic, as each of the three of us take our turn addressing that group, if there's a topic that that they feel like that they would like to talk to you, Mr. Didier, about, that maybe that they would talk to the clerk and would kind of help put together an agenda so that we kind of have purpose to that meeting. And so I felt like it went really well. And so I feel like that would work if you guys are willing to kind of continue with that idea. We kind of kicked it off today, if you would like. Then this afternoon had a multiple hour meeting with CCOM, and it's the SAT group, the Strategic Advisory Team, that is considering some of the challenges of making that organization a standalone organization. And so today, one of our topics, so Tim from the auditor's office was there, and the conversation was, there's 23 agencies that utilize the services of CCOM today, and how do we pay for that? What is the proper and equitable way to pay for that? So you have the Big Five, which is the ownership group, but a total of 23 agencies access that, from the Conemaugh Police Department to all of our fire departments, hospital districts, and so forth. And so wrestling through, how do we pay for that? Because today it's paid for by citizen group. And so everybody, it's pretty universally felt that we should change to a per call model. So whoever uses the call, it would be divided in that way, and trying to figure out what is an equitable way to allocate that expense. And so some really hard questions, some good conversation, and so at the end of the day, Jay Atwood, our CCOM manager, our BCES manager, he was going to go back and really work out on a spreadsheet some of the questions that we had to answer some of those questions. So just really appreciate all of the experts that were there, and especially the financial gurus from all of our agencies that were there to kind of provide a different perspective that we may not have thought about. So, and then doing some bargaining in closed session. And Mr. Chairman, that's my report.
Commissioner Mullen?
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add one quick thing on OPD. I think one of the other metrics that had been indicated, and Mackenzie and Bo may follow up, I think that about 80% of our open records have been closed. And so they might have been filled, but they had just never been officially closed. And so one of the things we've been able to really bring to it is a structure for getting, we've filled it, we've completed it, it's now closed. And so, and finalizing that communication back to the individual requester, et cetera. So a lot of positivity about, the work that is actually being completed now across the system, just not by the position, but across the system.
Have the requests dropped off at all? Getting more requests, and I would have to say that I think that we need to, there got to be duplicate requests. We should be putting this out on a site, and when that request is asked, it's already on the site. You can go to it and see it for yourself. And it's just creating more work when we're not putting that request that's already been out there on our site so people can see that it's there for them to view, and we don't have to request it again.
This is kind of getting off a little bit on that point. Bo and I have been working on maybe utilizing GovQA a little bit better. There's a module we can use where we can basically store everything in GovQA, our redactions, our log, and all that. And so if we do get a duplicate request and we're utilizing that module, we could utilize that to basically send out duplicate responses.
Okay. Commissioner Mullen?
Sorry, I did forget to talk about that piece. I appreciate the work. So they are working on that component that you just described.
Yes.
Of being able to do that.
Commissioner Mullen?
So last week had the aging and long-term care meeting, also Greater Columbia Behavioral Health, and right now they're in the middle of a state audit, but they're doing a great job over there, so appreciate that. Also had the chamber meeting with discussion from outreach specialists from the Department of Agriculture on the Japanese beetle. Again, just trying to get that under control. And they are doing free spraying for that. If you live roughly between Road 68 and Oregon Avenue, south of I-82, that's kind of the target zone. So contact the Department of Agriculture, and they'll come out and they'll spray your lawns for you. Just want to say that this coming weekend, we do have the Home and Garden Show. Looking forward to that. Also coming up, February 22nd is the Franklin County Cattlemen's Dinner. So just wanted to make those announcements. Thank you.
So last week, again, been having difficulty with my phone. Workforce Development Executive Meeting was Monday. Tuesday, it was today. I got everything updated, so I should be ready to go on any meeting that I can attend virtually. Been having administrator meetings with Mr. Johnson, and I thank you for your time on sitting down with me and brainstorming here about that 6 to 7 week period between you leaving and our new administrator. Also, I've talked to Mr. Johnson about coming back as a consultant with our new administrator to get him up to speed on everything, and you've entertained the thought, and I thank you for that, and I want to thank you very much for everything you've done for Franklin County and this Board of Commissioners, because you have put a calmness on the choppy sea that we were sailing in there for a while. You've been very, very appreciative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, I would like to schedule, before you leave, and I guess it would be you and I and whoever you think we need to talk with at Pasco. And we need to get together and discuss the HAPO Center. So I'd like to see that happen before you leave. And that way, when the new administrator comes in, then we could sit down with him and possibly Pasco again. Also, I'd like to try to put together a workshop for a salary committee to be put together. Mr. Johnson told me that this is what a lot of the areas are doing, the counties are doing for salary commissions, which is a committee of people that set the elected officials' salaries. Could never go backwards. You can't lower their salary, but you control the increase. So we stay away from what had happened in the county where we were compensating people for their insurance policy getting put into a salary, which has put us into a pretty difficult situation here in Franklin County. So I'd like to entertain putting together a committee for a salary structure.
Mr. Chairman, my preliminary investigation found that you actually did have a citizen salary commission at one point.
What year?
Well, it was disbanded in 2022-ish, I think, so fairly recently.
Really? I didn't even know
apparently
that.
there was a issue that you were having difficulty finding the citizens portion. So the Citizen Salary Commission is comprised generally of 6 citizens, 2 from each commissioner district, and I'm just reading the report and what I've been able to discern so far. And then you get 4 board appointments in 4 different categories, and that there was an ongoing challenge, apparently, of getting the 6 citizens to attend. So I don't know if anyone else has anything to add at that. So we can
Energize it.
we
see
can
if-
re-energize
if
it
the
and think
people are
about it
out there.
bringing
Yeah.
it back. But that was a decision to suspend that and repeal that ordinance.
So
But-
10 individuals?
It's 10 individuals. The statute actually stipulates the process. The county auditor actually from the voter rolls at lot draws names for the potential individuals that would serve as the 6 citizens, 2 from each commissioner district. And then there's, it's labor. I can't remember what the 4 categories are for the other departments or the other citizens. So
In our discussion, you had made mention how many other counties have this. There's quite
there's
a
about
few.
10, I think, at least, that have a citizen salary commission. Most of the charter counties did it through their charter, and then there's a handful of other counties that have done it just using the state statute.
Yeah, and in my years here as a commissioner, I'd never heard from him, so
Yeah.
I guess it was because nobody wanted to serve. Maybe the public now would be more interested in being involved in the salary commission. And
We
then
can bring that back for your discussion.
workshop on it and see if we have that kind of enthusiasm. The last thing would be the bi-county meeting. I don't want to exclude my other commissioners. If there's a topic that you guys think that we need to talk to bi-county wise, please get it in Eric's hands so that we can get it on the agenda. We don't want to overload the agenda. We have, 3 main topics right now? The veterans, the
Yep. There's a number of items in the behavioral health realm, from
Behavioral,
the
yeah.
center to, field responder to some variety of programs, and just your conversation around the partnerships associated with the advice that you might be getting from the advisory committee that I think Commissioner Mullen serves on for you.
Yes. And that concludes my report. That takes us down to public comment. Is there anybody in the room for public comment?
Good evening, gentlemen. A nice meeting. We're really going to miss you. I hope that you do help our new administrator get off to a good start. As far as the bi-county meeting, I don't think we should take the pressure off this glut of taxpayer money from the Big Five for transit that is empty. And I think we should continue to push that. So I would ask that you would bring that up again. Most of the bills that I've been watching very carefully. One day I was on the computer commenting on bills from 9 a.m. till 1 o'clock. If you want to just say pro or con, it goes a little bit faster, but I think they should know our thoughts. I've also been working for a while with a group that has gone back and looked at the constitutionality of the things happening in our state. And we did not have a state until the counties, as our legislators, put it together. And there was equal representation from each county. So if you can imagine that you have 2 senators from every county on the east side of the state, as we battle very difficult counties on the other side of the state, and that great divide, it would even out the playing field. And so we are working on First Amendment resolutions that we will be bringing to you, and I want you to start thinking in terms of what is constitutional. If it is not enumerated in their powers, they don't have it. Not on the federal level and not on the state level. And how we're doing business in the state has gutted those constitutional powers. So we're talking about setting things straight, doing it the right way. It's been successful in other counties and other states. And so I do want to let you know that we will start to bring those forward to you. But we need to start thinking differently and need to start reviewing the language of our actual Constitution. And so I hope you'll be receptive and be thinking about that as we move forward, because we're at an inflection point. We don't have fires like they did in California, but the state, parental rights is a perfect example. When a senator, and I did write him directly, when a senator says if a child is able to be pregnant, they're able to manage their body. And I wrote to him and I said a 9-year-old girl can become impregnated. That's how soon they can start their cycles. And I was very pointed about how their judgment part of their brain develops. And I got a lot of support from Senators Dozier, Banky, Schessler, and I also wrote Jim Walsh. And it was forwarded on to Mr. Peterson as supportive. So there are things that we can do, even as a minority, and that is the backbone of our Constitution. Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the room for public comment? Nobody on the phone? All right, with nobody else coming to the mic, is there a need for executive session?
There is under 4230-110 1I triple I pending litigation. We'll need 10 minutes. Myself, Ms. Lloyd, Mr. Sant, the board, and the clerk, as well as Mr. Johnson.
So at this time, we will recess into executive session for 10 minutes. Started at 8:26.
Yes. What do you think that costs?
A lot.
Yeah.
Okay, we're out of executive session with no decisions being made. And at this time, is there any other business for the good of the county? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. I don't think we need a break, do we? Okay, I will call the workshop to order, and I ask for the approval of the workshop agenda. One item, workshop, prosecuting attorney salary matrix.
Mr. Chairman, move for approval of the workshop agenda as presented.
Second.
Been a motion and a second for the approval of the workshop agenda. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. With that, we'll move down to public comment, and it will be specifically on the prosecuting attorney salary matrix, if there's anybody that would like to come to the mic for public comment. And nobody on the phone? We'll proceed to the workshop discussion. Mr. Sant.
Thank you, Commissioners. I did want to thank Jeff. I just finished a trial that started January 8th, and we wrapped that up on February 7th. So appreciate Jeff continuing to work with the HR department and Eric, trying to put things together, kind of addressing some of the needs. I think we shared previously with the board some of the concerns we have with trying to fill some vacancies and positions in our office. There was a recent article that kind of highlighted Yakima County for whatever reason. So one of the counties in the state that's facing a similar issue, and they highlighted that they were like 16% down, and we're approaching 53%. In March, we will lose another deputy. So one of the things that we're kind of looking at, and I just want to advise, we do have a deputy prosecutor guild, so my comments aren't really going to engage specifically for the actual matrix. That'd have to be something that would need to be negotiated between the guild and the board, but just kind of pitching some ideas out there for the board's consideration. What we've kind of looked at is trying to create a matrix that recognizes some longevity issues. For the skill set of prosecutors, people that have been doing that, there's a lot of value that comes over years. Prosecutors that have been doing it for a while could recognize cases for their weaknesses. Many of our prosecutors had been prior defense attorneys, and that really, I think, helps and brings some value in being able to assess the merits of cases, and especially when defense approaches us with issues for consideration and evaluation on whether or not it mitigates proposed resolution short of trial. It's helpful to have that experience. So it's kind of a unique position and skill set. I think some positions may get to a point where essentially after a few years you're basically reaching the potential for the job. And I'm not saying this specifically for county jobs or other jobs, but just jobs in general, that after you've been there for a while, you kind of get the in and out. The skill set that we're looking for prosecutors really improves. I know I learn a lot every year. Different issues come forward, trying to keep up with both the civil and criminal cases, updates, changes in our court system, changes with our legislature, trying to work balances there. Really highlights the need that we have for attracting and retaining skilled prosecutors. So one of the things that we're really trying to look at, and one of the things we'd like to propose for the board, is considering primarily, we lost one of our highly skilled prosecutors, one of our criminal chief deputy prosecutors. And so what we could at least address with the board today as part of our proposal of going forward is trying to look at a proposal that really adjusts where our chiefs are at in respect to some other positions within our office. And I know we're trying to work those out, looking at areas to attract and retain individuals. My chief deputy traveled to Boise last Friday to meet with some of the students from University of Idaho at the Boise campus. We've got some good leads on being able to bring some folks to the office as Rule 9s, which are basically kind of this interim. They haven't graduated yet, but they're able to work summers. Sometimes they do that for credit, sometimes they do that for pay. But it's a great opportunity for us to look at and evaluate some of these attorneys for joining our office later. One of the things we're trying to do is also retain the experienced prosecutors that we have in our office. And that's kind of what we're looking at with the proposal that we've had and we've been able to discuss. And I know one of the issues that's come up is we've brought up that, hey, we've got some positions or vacancies. One of the questions that has been posed is, well, in order to cover that, unfortunately, we do have sufficient vacancies as of this year that the proposed changes that we foresee would be covered within our existing budget. So we wouldn't need an adjustment for this year's budget. Certainly, it would affect budgets in 26, 27, and forward. But trying to minimize that, one of the questions posed was, well, could we do without filling one of those vacancies in order to help offset the cost? Obviously, the answer is I'd be hesitant, but certainly I would take a reduction of our vacancy rate. That's going to be approximately 53% once March hits. I would certainly welcome a tentative solution that would reduce that. If we could reduce that down to a 20% vacancy, or I jokingly said I'd welcome Yakima's vacancy rate of 16% as being a much better situation than where we're currently at. Larger counties have the ability to have a little bit more vacant positions, but for us it's a real challenge when we're going to approach 5 vacancies, and these are all in our criminal division. So obviously it's going to be a hit to us. We're trying to work and navigate already how we do things, and I believe one of the items I forgot, I think that was on the consent agenda, if I'm not mistaken, was the contract with Rio and Foltz, and that's really been a big help with our district court, because district court services are something that's required in court every day. And my prosecutors are busy with the felony work. Specifically on Tuesdays, it's difficult, but we've been able to at least contract some temporary help for getting that assistance in district court, and it's really helpful. We are very mindful of the work that we do, where if we file cases, there's a direct corollary to defense has to be appointed and assigned to defend those cases we prosecute. So we try to triage the best we can to utilize the services that we have in our district court. I've shared with many people that are surprised, as was I, when I first became aware many years ago that, wait a minute, a person could be convicted of a C or a B felony, which are pretty serious cases, but they are not ordered to have any kind of supervision in the community. So we've made an evaluation of those type of cases where it might be property crime only, nonviolent offenses, but still what might otherwise be prosecuted as a felony case, and moved those into district court for the sole purpose of, one, being able to have restitution, accountability with community supervision, which basically ensures that if they commit another offense, not only can they serve time for that new offense, but they could actually have imposed some of that suspended jail time in district court. So anyway, I just wanted to have the opportunity to put that on the board's radar as we're going forward and discussing this, to consider where we are. We're at a pretty dire position right now with our current loads. I'm trying to figure out opportunities that we have, and had an opportunity to discuss with Eric Johnson to float some of these ideas. Margot's been very helpful in kind of helping us look at the different positions that we currently have and trying to look at opportunities to kind of change things up so that it would allow for people to stay on and recognize that, hey, if you stay here with the county and continue to add that value for years of service, you don't need to look elsewhere. We can provide an opportunity for moving up as you continue to gain those valuable skills over the years. Stay with us. We have opportunity for you to work up to the next level. So anyway, Eric, I'll defer to you.
Yeah, just let me refresh kind of the boards and reflect back on what December looked like for us. So the issue was brought before the board back in December, and we kind of bifurcated it into two issues. One, the immediate issue of what I called the acute right now. So we have an acute and chronic. So we talked about this in terms of the retention issue is let's stop, if we can, the bleeding. And so you use some additional ARPA funds to do retention payments. And so that was one of the first actions, with the idea that we would come back to maybe address the chronic problem, which is we are now up to over 50%, or will be up to a 50% vacancy in our the criminal division in the prosecuting attorney's office. So what could we do with the matrix, with salaries, as one portion of the potential recruitment issue that we might be having, and then continue to work on assuring that salaries perhaps come up so we can continue to retain folks as well. So that's the context of why we're coming back now with this discussion. As we had committed back then, you took action with the retention funds, and so those funds have been made available. And then secondarily, coming back now with the longer-term potential solution with looking at the salary matrix for all of the DPAs clear to through the chief deputies on both the civil and the criminal side. And then I just want to put into context, the Consor study that was done has some useful components to help inform this discussion as well. And it did look at what they called risk positions, and those risk positions had the deputy prosecuting attorneys as one of those highlighted. And it's a really unusual, I think, moment for us within a number of public sector jobs, because the market, we have a really unique market in certain positions right now. And so as we look at that market, and we're going out and we're not even seeing applications in some situations, that we know there's a shortage of attorneys, particularly a shortage of public sector attorneys. I've talked with private sector firms in the greater Seattle area. They're having difficulty recruiting attorneys as well. It's just a really interesting time within that marketplace as well. So while I think I think some of our workforce will say, well, why them almost? Why are we looking at this? And it's unique. It is a unique position to the work that we do in counties. There's only a handful of positions that actually require accreditation and require licenses and et cetera. So we continue to see a shrinking pool of who's even eligible to apply for certain positions. So I just hope we keep in mind that, that there are certain positions within government that are harder and harder to recruit than other positions.
Commissioners, questions, comments?
I suppose some observation. I know that this is being felt statewide. I know that the legislature is trying to address different things with OPD, and I know BAC is probably not quite where it's at today, but I know within the last year there was 63 licensed attorneys within the confines of Franklin County that lived here. And you take 63 divided by all of the practices that need attorneys, that's not very many. And so I can appreciate that this is a challenge, and yeah, not sure all the answers to it.
Commissioner Mullen?
Just, I mean, there's a shortage, and how do you stay competitive when the neighboring counties just keep throwing more and more money at it? I mean, it's a difficult situation.
So, Mr. Johnson, I got a question for you. Is Yakima the highest paying county for attorneys?
In the state?
According to the matrix there, or the Consor study? Where does Yakima County rate?
This didn't provide numbers. It provided what I'd call what peer counties they compare.
Okay.
You'd compare it to number or comparative verbiage more than pure numbers. But Benton, Grant, and Yakima all paid significantly higher than Franklin County. And I would suspect, to be honest, this was done prior to Yakima even making a more significant increase in compensation.
And my point is, Yakima is facing the same dilemma
Oh,
we're
yeah.
facing,
And shortage,
16%,
and even, yeah.
writing articles about it. So, again, as we have found in OPD, we're in a competition here for attorneys with other counties, and all we're doing is driving up our costs by participating in it. And I appreciate, Sean, you bringing up the fact that you're willing to lose a position to help pay for these if we're going to go out on this and start paying more money. My question to you is there other reasons than salary that our attorneys are leaving? Is there possibly any other reasons why they're leaving? Because obviously Yakima's got them leaving too.
Yeah, the exit interviews that we've done was that there was significant opportunities to gain more compensation going out in private practice, doing combination of defense contracts. And so that was the driving force. It was something that if I was able to come up with kind of the proposals that we were talking about, I might have been able to keep our chief deputy, but because of the timing, it just, there wasn't enough time to put a comprehensive package together to look at trying to retain and be competitive. But yeah, it's a interesting phenomenon, and that's why we've really taken the time, as busy as we are. It was well worth it for my chief deputy to make the trip to Boise last Friday, because we got some good leads, very qualified applicants, trying to figure out how could we bring them on as Rule 9s. And I think the board might have seen part of the bill that was put forward in the legislature that offers a little bit of offset. So when we could bring in Rule 9s, we do have funding available. They provide a stipend for housing for people to come in and work in that Rule 9 situation. And what we're really trying to do is we're making an investment in Franklin County. We're trying to go out and recruit folks to get them, to show them that, hey, there's a lot of value in doing public service work. I mean, this was something that I wanted to do from the time I left law enforcement. I wanted to come back as a prosecutor and to do that work. To me, I think it's a value in trying to share that with young lawyers, giving them some of the values that we get to do, being involved in this type of work. People can, go on and be like civil and get involved with a whole myriad of cases that Mackenzie and Jeff deal with on the civil side. But there's a lot of advantages, I think, that public service has to offer, and we're trying to be able to recruit people that have an interest. At least if we could get them here, we've had success in the past of being able to have those same people stick around. And then we saw one of our individuals that started with us ended up leaving and basically went to the Office of Public Defense, even within the county, because we were basically almost competing at that time within ourselves, and it created its own little challenge. But that's where we are, and that's why I think it was something when posed the question, well, hey, could you sacrifice having a vacancy? It's like, well, if I'm facing 5, potentially 6 vacancies by midsummer, I would certainly take only one of those vacancies if we had to be able to fill the other, to stave off, I guess, the departures from the office, but also trying to recruit people that realize, hey, we could come here and stay here because we recognize if we stay here for like 5 years, they could see where they're going to be, salary-wise and whatnot. And I think that's really what we're trying to do, is create a long-term solution rather than come back to the board, ask for incentives. And I recognize there's always a concern with, well, are we competing? I just know that I have to fill these type of positions. I can't do the work that we have if I have 5 vacancies in the criminal division. There's only so much I could put on my existing deputies. Otherwise, they would say, wait a minute, I can't take on this additional work. There's only so much we can do. And that's kind of the complexity, I think, too, with what has changed. I brought this up earlier. Law enforcement now, all of our law enforcement agencies within our community go with Axon. That means all the body-worn camera evidence is tracked on. The murder trial that I just got done doing, we had 620 items that were entered into evidence.com. Basically, that's electronic records, it's other written documents, it's photographs from a scene. So you got all of these that have to be reviewed and listened to in preparation for trials. And it just seems like our trial preparation is a lot more complex and a lot more time consuming than it once was. Law enforcement agencies have added law enforcement officers to their departments over the years. And unfortunately, I think what Eric has brought up previously is we're dealing with a system. A criminal justice system is composed of, clerks in the court system, people that handle the courts. A big, huge impact that we almost had in the middle of our murder trial was we were going to lose one of our final court reporters. We were able to get him to be able to stay on and finish the case, because that would have been detrimental to us to go from having a person that's in court able to record and say in real time, if they can't hear a witness or hear what's being said, they could say in real time, hey, I need that repeated, so they could get an accurate record. We would have to be forced to go to the recording system, and you just hope that there's an adequate record being made. Otherwise, that could generate its own issues for appeal. So when we are talking about the criminal justice system, it really is a complexity of all the different pieces. It's not, when folks add deputies or officers to the streets, that means there's going to be more cases coming into our office. We have to screen and figure out how do we navigate those cases. We got therapeutic courts, we could send cases that way. We've got veterans courts, we got other means. We're going to have a recovery center that's going to assist us with navigating folks coming into the system with mental health issues. All of that's going to be a help, but it does take time and resources, human resources, deputies that are skilled in recognizing the weaknesses and strength of cases and understanding what kind of cases make sense to navigate to another alternative or diverting it down to district court, things like that. And we're trying to be smarter with the resources we have, because we have to. And we've been doing this for years, just because we knew that as we started to get more and more cases, when I started back in 2011, we had like 95 cases that were set for trial. Now we average about 380, and we've only added like a deputy position. So that tells you what kind of expansion that we've had with the type of caseload that has hit and the time that's being consumed. So I'm hopeful that in the next week or so we could present, like I said, we have to work with the guild, and if we could understand where the board is and figure out that, hey, if we can make this work with our budget for this year. Unfortunately, what that means is that because of the vacancies, we're basically covering the anticipated increase it would be for this year, and potentially it would offset for even expansion into 26's budget. But I'm hopeful that the board will look at that and figure out that, hey, if we're willing to try to do things even with a position down, if we could try to make some adjustments that would allow us to recruit and retain our existing deputies, that would be great. So Eric, I don't know if you had something else to
I
add on
do,
that.
and it's a little off subject or off your immediate topic, but it really talks about the system. And, you know, I think one of the things, if I would be here longer, I really would try and reinvigorate your Law and Justice Council. I think they can be effective. The system is comprised of a lot of independents. Independently elected prosecutor, an independent judiciary, an independent clerk, an independent, sheriff that runs our corrections facility. So it's a bunch of independents. And then you add our Office of Public Defense. There's so many things that are going into that system, and they're all, quote, independent. And, we do, if we're going to make process improvements in the system, we've got to really think about it more holistically. And there's got to be a vehicle to do that when we have so many independently elected and independent organizations that are running the court system, so to speak. They don't think holistically. And, granted, they all have independent statutory and constitutional responsibilities, and I've heard that a lot over 40 years. But there's so many opportunities within that if we could get people to simply break down those barriers of that. And the Law and Justice Council is one of our few tools that really does bring people together to be able to do that. So,
Is the Office of OPD anyway state funded?
I don't know if they receive anything specifically other than if there is a aggravated murder case. Even our office gets reimbursed a little bit or a portion of the cost of bringing those cases forward. That's really a very small fraction of
it
cases.
just seems like if Office of OPD should be funded by the
you
state.
mean our Office of OPD?
Yes.
Our Office of OPD is funded about 3.5%, maybe 4%
By the state.
by the state.
Well, if it's state mandated, maybe they should run that, and then we could get the attorneys from the OPD to work for the county instead of conflict of interest, fighting and representing each other.
No, yeah, that's an interesting point, and that was a point made back even in 2008 when we finally got the state to pay a portion of the elected prosecutor's salary at the state level, because the work that we do in court, we're prosecuting under the name State of Washington. Every felony case, it's not a county ordinance that we're prosecuting, it's not a city ordinance, it's a violation of state law. And that has been an argument, and I think some of our local legislators are recognizing that really that is I don't know if I'd want to call it an unfunded mandate, but it's certainly something that hasn't gone unnoticed, because we're having to house folks at our county jails. When we had issues with juveniles, the juvenile JRA issue with housing juvenile offenders, counties were being reached out to and contracted, hey, are you capable of housing these, because we have some issues in this state-run facility that the state is obligated to provide that service. And they're reaching back to contract with counties. And some counties were capable of doing that, and they were able to contract back with the state and make, I guess, a competitive rate. But that's the issue we have. At the county level, the people that we house in our jail, it's probably 94% out of people committing felony crimes within the city limits of Pasco. Now, granted, that's also in Franklin County, but it gives you an idea of the mindset. So we get to bear the risk. It's always, it's been said, those of you that have been landlords and tenants in this state recognize that just like jails, it would be much better to be in the tenant position, even if you have an obligation to cover medical expenses for those people that are at least temporarily housed in your facility. But all the risk, all the personnel that are required to maintain that system, the corrections department, one of our highest risk departments at the county level, we're doing that because of violations of state law. And we really don't see that kind of funding mechanism flowing back to counties from the state level. So it really does put a huge financial burden on us at the county level, because we're trying to sort out, what do we do? How do we do that? That's why all of us prosecutors are coming up with ways that we can be smarter about, hey, we got limited resources. Let's figure out these therapeutic court programs. Let's see if they're successful. Let's try to invest our resources there, because if that's working, it's going to save the county taxpayers as well as state dollars. So these are all complex systems, and I think our local leaders, they hear it from us. I know they hear it from me regularly that, hey, we're doing state work. I mean, at the county level, we're prosecuting state law violations. We should have more funding. We should, if you're paying half of my salary because of the work I'm doing prosecuting murder cases and other crimes in court, what about my deputies that are doing the same thing? They're prosecuting violations of state law. The state really should help us out a little bit more.
So, Commissioner, you're spot on. I mean, this is an issue. Wausau actually does have litigation against the state on this issue. Filed suit that the state was failing their constitutional duty. The requirement for public defense or indigent defense was brought at the federal level to say, states, you are responsible for this. Our state has delegated that to counties. We rank almost dead last in any state funding for public defense. And that was filed almost over a year ago now, and it's been laboring through the court system. I think our goal is to move it as quickly as we can to the state Supreme Court so that we can get what we think is probably a pretty friendly court, that the state is failing in meeting its constitutional duty, not just in funding it, but in the oversight and assuring the adequacy of indigent defense throughout the state of Washington. So, spot on. There's a bill, we talked about it at noon today a little bit. There is a bill progressing through the legislature, but it's a big amount of money, is that would have 50% of the funds come from the state to pay for indigent defense. That's a significant amount. That would be $1 million into our current expense fund. I've always said that we would take public defense funding over, changing our property tax to additional, what do we get, 100,000 for every 1% or something like that? We'll take the indigent defense over any property tax increase. It's a significant amount of money to us. So. And that's still not even thinking about what they might do with caseload standards to us. So,
I think what you highlighted too, Eric, is the McCleary decision that we had with education. If you think about the constitutional requirements to provide education, it seems like this would be equally applicable if you have inadequate funding for indigent defense. It seems like that is a state issue as well, and there's a lot of debate and discussion on how that gets resolved at the state level. Because, one of the concerns is there was a case that went through the Ninth Circuit, originated out of Oregon. Oregon basically, at the same time of facing attorney shortages, they kind of created this caseload standard changes that basically made it even more difficult to have sufficient attorneys. If you're already in an attorney shortage and you change up those standards, that's not helping a burdened system. And so they kind of exacerbated the problem. That went up through the Ninth Circuit, and the Ninth Circuit basically said, look, you've been spending your efforts trying to address or fight this challenge, and they had people that were in custody for, I think, in two extreme of those cases, up to like 10 months without an appointment of a defense attorney. So I think everybody recognized that, hey, that's an extreme injustice. I mean, from a constitutional perspective, as well as many other values that are standards that are set. So anyway, we're trying to avoid that, and like Eric said, we're waiting for that decision on caseload standards that could come at any time. And depending on how that ruling is, the big question comes, okay, if you're going to adopt a drastic change in standards at a time when we are short attorneys, both doing prosecution and defense, state really doesn't care necessarily for the prosecution side, but they certainly care about the constitutional obligation if you don't have enough or adequate defense counsel to be assigned to those that are charged. So what that ends up happening means people won't be charged. It'll be, people will have to delay charging decisions until adequate numbers are available on the defense side, or cases get diverted to various ways that we're already doing now. So it'd be hard to really increase what we've already had to do because of our current situation.
So happy to geek out all night on county government, but I think the chair wants to grab the gavel. So I don't know if there's anything else you have on this.
Getting ready.
If there's anything else on this issue that you want from us as you
I just got to make
prepare
one last
things.
comment after this whole discussion, and it's the breakdown of law. We're seeing it in our own state. We don't prosecute for drugs anymore. We don't really do. There's no penalty for the crime. We're creating this mess, and it's requiring more and more effort to fix it instead of doing the right thing. And you prosecute when they are found guilty, there's a penalty. We don't have penalties anymore. It just seems like everybody's getting away with everything, so why not commit crime? That's what this state has created. And now they're putting it on our backs. But that isn't solving our problem. So, yeah, I know we have a problem. We got to work this out. So if there's not any other questions or comments, we do have one last public comment, if there's anybody that wants public comment. Jeff, did you have anything you wanted to say? You look like you might want to say something.
No, I think everyone summed it up pretty well that, I mean, the system, it functions only when all the parts are functioning. So if any part breaks down, and we've seen that recently with defense attorneys and now more recently with prosecutors. And so if every component of that system isn't well-staffed and, well-funded, then it breaks down, and then, the system breaks down. So.
It requires more effort to fix, and we're not fixing nothing.
Right.
So with that, if there's no public comment,
I was just gonna say, yeah, we're doing what we can, because I have the same sentiments that you've shared with holding people accountable, even if that means we're having to put cases into a district court where we have supervision and we could ensure restitution is paid and people pay back. We're just at a point where we just don't have the resources in the office. So we'll probably be coming back to the board. I wanted to make sure that we were able to answer questions, coming back to the board probably in the near future with a proposal for addressing the salary matrix once we've been able to let that go through and work some things out with the guild and be able to make a presentation back for the board for hopefully resolving some of this. And yeah. So anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. I know it's late.
Thank you.
so with that, we will adjourn the workshop.